Hey guys, today I want to talk to you about what I think is going to be the 4 hottest narratives for the bull run. So let's dive right into it. The first one I want to talk about is going to be tokenized stocks. I think the tokenized stocks market is going to be massive for the crypto space because we're talking about a $124 trillion market, $125, $26 trillion market is going to be colliding with our $4 trillion crypto market. And that is massive. That is huge. It's going to have an impact for sure. And one of the places that we see a lot of this taking place is Solana. You got to respect what Solana is doing this cycle. All the memes are on Solana. We're talking about all of the AI agents on Solana, real world assets on Solana. But not only that, the tokenized stock market is on Solana. And there perhaps is no other platform that is leading the space right now than XTOX. And I love what XTOX is doing, investing design for everyone, because they're bringing the simplicity. We know how easy it is to buy a meme on Jupiter or Radium or to buy a crypto asset. So they're bringing the simplicity of buying crypto assets to the stock market. Hey, all the stocks we love, Netflix, Meta, Hood, Amazon, Tesla, NVIDIA. And not only that, there's a whole range of stocks and products that you can buy using the XTOX platform that's sitting on top of Solana. So I'm really bullish about this narrative. And one of the reasons why I'm really bullish about this narrative, as we look at the narrative, it's generating volume, more than 100 million in volume. And that is massive. And where this is taking place, what platform is this? It's XTOX. And you can see XTOX on Bybit, on Kraken, on Radium, Jupiter. And so this sort of opens up for us what might be some potential plays. Because not only do we want to look at the narrative, but we want to say coming out of the narrative, what tokens can run, what tokens can pump, what tokens can benefit from the narrative really running. And I think perhaps one of the tokens that we got to look at is going to be Radium. I think Radium as a DEX, one of the leading DEXs on Solana. And what I really like about it, Radium has another 4x to get to its all-time high. And so I'm bullish on Radium. So I want to put Radium out there as one of the tokens that I think is going to crush it in the bull run. And so as we look at the tokenized stock space, of course, there are more entrants into the space. We're seeing what Ondo is doing, and we heard from Hood that they want to tokenize assets, I guess, on the platform Arbitrum. But this space is really, just think about where we've come in crypto. And this space is really bullish for the crypto market. And I think the platform that's going to benefit the most, because it's really been built for retail, right? The platform that's going to benefit the most is Solana. The chain that's going to benefit the most is Solana. And I think for me, in my opinion, the token that I'm very much interested in is Radium. Sure, you can look at Jupiter and there may be some other alternatives, but listen, you cannot go wrong as we tokenize stocks and bring them on chain. TradFi coming on chain, you cannot go wrong. The next narrative I want to dive into is the stablecoin narrative. I think this narrative has the potential to again bring trillions into the crypto space. When Donald Trump signed into law the Genius Act, it really opened the door for stablecoin issuers. The Genius Act creates a clear and simple regulatory framework to establish and unleash the immense promise of dollar-backed stablecoins. And this, to me, is going to be very bullish. And I sort of see the play, right? I can sort of see the strategy of the Trump administration, because we know massively there is tremendous US debt. We're talking about $37 trillion. And it's sort of like a genius move, because what they seem to be doing is tokenizing US debt. Because we know the government comes out with a budget. And when they come out with a budget, often they can't take in enough money to meet the budget. So there's going to be a deficit. And so the US government has to borrow money. And so what they do, they give out treasury bonds or notes or T-bills, and basically sort of like an IOU to lenders, right? And they borrow money to meet US debt. And this is why the US debt has been going up so high, 37 trillion. And most of the people they borrow from are countries like Japan, the UK, China, etc. But this is where the Genius Act shows its power. And I think this is where the Trump administration, or let's not say the Trump administration, right? The Trump family, right? World Liberty Finance. And you got to say the Trump family, because when you look at this company and watch your team, the co-founder is Donald Trump, Eric Trump, Donald Trump, Barron Trump. So World Liberty Finance has their own stablecoin called USD1. And so this is where I think it could be very bullish for stablecoin issuers, because it seems like the Trump administration is saying, go ahead, issue as much stable coins as you want, but you're going to have to back it by US dollars or T-bills or treasury notes, bonds, treasury bills. And this is a strategic move, because what this does, it keeps the US dollar as a global reserve currency of the world. And so you got to really be bullish on World Liberty Financial. And yes, we talked about in many of our Zooms, we talked about some of the plays that will come out of the World Liberty Financial narrative. Projects like Dolomite and projects like Block Street, some great projects that we've discussed in the Sniper Club. Hey, if you're not in the Sniper Club, here's a plug. You need to get in there, because real alpha is dropping continuously in the Sniper Club. But I want to talk about a project that it's an old school project, but many people are missing when it comes to World Liberty Finance, and that's 𝗬𝗃. I think it's a tremendous opportunity for 𝗬𝗃. Why? Because we have to look carefully and realize that 𝗬𝗃 DAO receives 20% of the fees generated by World Liberty Fi. And not only that, they hold 7% of the supply. So you got to be bullish on 𝗬𝗃. And where does 𝗬𝗃 sit today? Because we know that 𝗬𝗃 is a project that's been around for a while, $292, and it's sitting at a market cap of 4.4 billion. So 𝗬𝗃 is a project that I love. Access the full power of DeFi, supply, borrow, swap, stake, and more. The world's largest liquidity protocol. So I'm bullish on 𝗬𝗃. And I guess, guys, as we dive into this narrative, it's really two narratives in one, because it's a stable coin narrative and the Trump narrative. And I often ask when I'm doing Zooms, what moves the market the most? And we know the answer to that. It's going to be money or liquidity, right? But what I find our community often says is Trump. And you got to respect that Trump really moves the market. And so this is where I believe that stable coins bringing $37 trillion on chain, US debt on chain, a brilliant strategy for tokenizing US debt. And now when we look at the Trump narrative, we see some plays. Perhaps the Trump meme coin would be a good play, but Dolomite might be a good play. Block Street might be a good play. But I think a play where you can apply size to a project that's been established for a while, it's going to be 𝗬𝗃. But remember too, there are other projects, right? Remember, this is not just about 𝗬𝗃, but there are other projects that are playing a role, right, in the stablecoin space. Stablecoin issuers like Circle. And we saw the monster run that Circle had on the stock market, but also USDT. So there are some other plays that you can look at. And here is a project that I don't believe the token's out as yet. It's called Stable XYZ, where USDT meets the stable chain. So that is very interesting. So keep your eye on this project. And here's another project. Actually, it was a project. It's built on a project that I invested in the last cycle or last couple cycles before. It's called Liquidity. And Liquidity is really a permissionless protocol that allows you to lend and borrow ETH and stable coins and stuff like that. So it's stable coins your way. Borrow with your BTC and yield bearing stable coins at user set fixed rates, immutable forever. It's coming from a company called Asymmetry Finance. It's sitting at a market cap that is very, very low. It's a low market cap project sitting at, I think at the time of this recording, maybe $10 million. So that's a low market cap project. So guys, we have touched on 3 powerful narratives. We've touched on TradFi coming on chain, 126 trillion, colliding with our 4 trillion crypto market. We've touched on tokenizing US debt, the Genius Act and stable coins. And hey, that's a $37 trillion market now that's colliding with our $4 trillion market. And if Citibank is right, and they forecasted by 2030 that the largest holder of US debt is going to be stable coins, man, we're early in this space. And then we touch on the next narrative, which is going to be Trump and what they are billing, what his family is billing in World Liberty Financial, or World Liberty Fi, I call it, right? And I think they have their own stable coin. You could see the move, USD1, and now you can see the move into lending and borrowing projects like Dolomite. We can see the move in launching projects with projects like Block Street, and we could see the play of well-established players like Aave. And so those are 3 powerful narratives. Let's dive into the next narrative. The next narrative I want to look at is the impact of the 401k executive order being approved by Donald Trump. I think there's tremendous potential now with that also, because we're talking about Trump executive order allowing investors, people who are going to retire, to invest some of their 401k into the crypto market. And I think that is very, very bullish, because I think maybe a lot of Americans are going to look at their retirement savings and look at what's happening with Bitcoin and ETH and say, I need some exposure there. And so that's really bullish for the market. As we look at it, I think who's going to benefit? Which tokens are going to benefit? Well, there are 70 million Americans that enroll in 401k plans. And what type of money we are looking at? We are looking at between $8 to $12 trillion. What age groups? And I think looking at the age groups are key. What age groups are we looking at? We're looking at people who are young workers, Gen Z and millennials. We're looking at people who are around maybe in their early 30s to under 50. As we look at the demographics of investors in the 401k, I think the tokens that are going to do the best, or the tokens that are going to do very, very well, I think it's going to be some of the big players. So I have to see more how it's going to play out, and if they're going to allow you to invest in what type of crypto assets you allow you to invest in. But I think our Bitcoin, ETH, XRP, Solana, and if they do allow that exposure deep down into the crypto market, I think this is where XRP can stand out, because people look at Bitcoin at 110, 120k, and they look at ETH at 4 going to 5k, and they look at XRP at $3. And that kind of low unit bias sort of plays into psychology of the investor and the buyer. And you say, I can hold 0.1 of a Bitcoin, or I can hold 1,000 XRP. And as silly as it is, right? I think a lot of times retail sort of looks at these simple psychological things and make their buying decision. So I'm bullish on the impact of the 401k on the crypto market. I think it's going to be a big narrative. Again, all the narratives we are touching on are $1 trillion markets that are colliding with our on-chain crypto market. And so 401ks, I think, is going to be very, very bullish. Let's give you a bonus narrative. So my bonus narrative is going to be Project Crypto. I think Project Crypto, it's really going to rewrite the rules when it comes to crypto in the US market. Looking at the narrative, I think the narrative is going to be big. So there are 3 investments that will benefit from the SEC's Project Crypto, according to Bitwise. So this is an article published by Yahoo Finance. And I want you to look carefully, because I want to touch on a project that I think is going to do well. And and I see what's happening with ETH, and I think this project is going to do well. What narrative? One, Ethereum and other layer one blockchains. That's going to be big project crypto. Another one is going to be super apps. Those apps that'll give you like everything under one roof. You can stake, you can lend, you can borrow. It's really going to open up this space for apps like Coinbase now, who's a DEX, who's a centralized exchange, but now is integrating airdrop. And so those super apps are going to really benefit for the flexibility that Project Crypto is trying to bring into the space. But the area I want to look at is decentralized finance apps. And there's been a lot of pressure on the decentralized space on Radium and Jupiter and these projects, because there hasn't really been clarity, regulatory clarity on these projects. And you saw Uniswap have suffered in the past from the SEC. But now we are seeing some clarity. Project Crypto really is aiming to bring that type of clarity, right? Introduce that type of, so it says Project Crypto is an initiative to update US rules that allow the financial market to move on chain. It's trying to bring concrete steps, right, to achieve this goal in the coming months. So which token am I interested in? Some of y'all might be happy to hear the old school Uniswap, because I think Uniswap is going to play that Project Crypto narrative. But I also think that Uniswap is going to benefit from the success of ETH. And so looking at Uniswap, it's one of the tokens that I'm bullish on going forward into the bull run. So that's it, guys. We've touched on some powerful narratives. We've touched on 4 main narratives and I guess one bonus narrative. We've seen the power of TradFi coming on chain. What a big narrative. We've seen the power of stable coins and of course, the impact of Donald Trump in the industry. And then we've seen now for our 401ks are now coming on, giving access to on-chain assets. And lastly, Project Crypto will rewrite the rules for crypto going forward. Let's see what happens in that space. Lastly, guys, for those of y'all who've enjoyed the content today, perhaps I want to encourage you, perhaps you could take a look at Sniper Club if you've never seen some of the amazing things that are offered in Sniper Club. Listen, every day in Sniper Club, there is Zooms, market opens with guys like Matt and Bruce, London Open, Trade Management, New York Open with Bogdan, and we have the Sniper crew. You can chill and chat. And I also do a 100x lab with memes and AI agents. I also do a portfolio Zoom. So listen, we are crushing it in Sniper Club, right? You can see general chat, traders chat, investment, AI and memes, psychology. There is so much that is happening in the Sniper Club. For those of y'all who are interested in learning more about the Sniper Club, I'm going to drop a link down in the description. But listen, the bull market is here. Perhaps many of you all will losing courage or faith that we're going to have a bull run in this cycle. But listen, the bull market is coming fast and furious, and we should be excited. This is the time you really want to focus in on crypto. Perhaps this is the time you want to dial in. And this is why I think you really benefit doing crypto with a community. Sometimes it's very difficult to do this on your own, but it's so great to have a community that you can hang out with, grow with, trade with. But whatever you do, I want to wish you the best trading in this cycle and keep on crushing it. We're out.